Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our presentation about the Office of Career Strategy and Advancement at Villanova Law. We'll get started with some introductions. I'm Jennifer Henfey. I'm the Associate Dean of Professional Development and Leadership here at the law school. I am also a graduate of the law school. I went into private practice after law school at a large law firm where I was a partner in the financial services practice group, which means that I represented large financial institutions and other companies in commercial finance matters. And while I was there, I was lucky enough to also serve as the hiring partner and was involved in hiring and recruiting, lateral retention, associate satisfaction there for about a decade. So I had a really long experience in law firm hiring. I came to the law school in September 2011, and I've been here obviously ever since. Next on our list is Kristin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Kristin Archibald. I'm the director of the Career Strategy Office. I joined the office in 2006. I went to Villanova undergrad. I went to Villanova Law. I began my practice in a small boutique firm doing tax work. I left there and went to a small corporate firm and did corporate work. So I have a little experience in the small firm world, and then I came to Villanova where I have been ever since. Also, go Wildcats.
Totally. Sharon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Buckingham. I have been in the Career Strategy Office for about 8 years. I am a Villanova Law alum. I was a litigator. I was also a legal writing instructor at Villanova. And then for several years, I did hiring and training, attorney development at a law firm. I do general advising in our office, and I also work directly with students who have an interest in public interest, public service, and judicial clerkships.
Thanks, Sharon. Becky, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Becky Fitzsimmons. I'm one of the career strategy advisors in the office, and I also coordinate the professional development course that you're going to hear about in a few minutes. I practiced for a large firm based in Cincinnati, Ohio, both as an associate and later as a partner, and I've served as general counsel for a real estate development company. Really happy to be with all of you today.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay, so that's us. So let's talk a little bit about what we do. So we offer all of the traditional career advising and job search tools that you might expect from a law school career office, such as career counseling and job search coaching, job postings and recruitment programs, employer outreach and employer development, lots and lots of educational programming, support for fellowships and funding for public interest jobs, support for clerkships and clerkship applications. But very unique to Villanova is our professional development curriculum that Becky mentioned. So why has Villanova created and invested in our professional development curriculum? Well, first, I'll give you a little context. A generation or so ago, one went to law school for academic skills, and your first jobs were like apprenticeships, where the lawyers and employers train junior associates and lawyers, and you learn the realities of practice, sitting next to your mentor, the person who is showing you the ropes and taking you through everything. Employers have obviously changed, and they're no longer providing this training and structure. And now they expect new hires to come with a certain set of skills. As this evolved, law schools did not change to meet the shifting demands of the employment market. But at Villanova, we saw this as a challenge and a way to distinguish our students and graduates from others in the marketplace. In our own experiences, and you heard all of our experiences in different practice settings, and at the law school, and from employers, we've seen over time a pattern of success among the students who have self-awareness and understanding of the profession and the demands of the practice and a strategic direction. And with that knowledge, we talked with employers to understand their needs as they've developed over time and to define that gap between law school and practice. And employers identified skills that could be taught in law schools, but were not. So when we spoke to employers, we talked about these skills. We used this knowledge to develop the professional development curriculum. And we talked to employers of all types and sizes to define that skills gap. And so I'm curious, what do you all think employers identified? What do you think might make a new lawyer successful in the first years of practice? So if you could drop some of those skills in the chat, we'd love to see what you think. Legal writing, definitely. What else is out there? Workplace communication, great. I know there's other things. Time management, absolutely. Ability to communicate with clients in a timely and professional fashion, absolutely, definitely. That's terrific. These are all really basic tech skills. Yep, definitely. Let's see, if there's one more, we'll read it out and then we can go on to the next. Teamwork, thank you. Okay, so these are the things that are taught in a traditional law school curriculum. Among other skills, these are the basic broad skills: critical thinking, analysis, research, and writing. So you definitely identified some of those. But what do you think is not taught in law school? So you identified other skills, right? Time management, communication skills that are not taught in law schools, and employers identified those and others. So they identified things like leadership and teamwork skills, emotional intelligence and intercultural awareness, networking and relationship building, knowledge about the realities of practice and different practice settings, grit, growth mindset, a service mindset, that client orientation, and digital literacy. So these things were generally not taught in a traditional law school curriculum. So others, at the same time we were exploring this, so were some others, and people started talking about these concerns. So the Foundations for Practice study surveyed 24,000 lawyers in all 50 states in 2014 and 2015. And the goal was to identify the foundation's entry-level lawyers' need to launch successful careers in the legal profession. This slide lists the top 10 individual foundations characterized as necessary in the short term by the largest proportions of respondents. This illustrates that legal skills tend to be considered less urgent than characteristics and professional competencies. In fact, legal skills make no appearance in the top 10 foundations new lawyers need for success right out of law school. And look, that is not to say that law school should stop teaching legal skills or legal knowledge. But what it means is that there are other skills that also need to be taught. The study really developed the idea of the whole lawyer. The whole lawyer has professional competencies and characteristics and legal skills that are viewed as vital to success in a career in the law. And through the PD curriculum, we are teaching, nurturing, and modeling the professional competencies and characteristics that are so incredibly vital to your success. So we talked about why we're doing this. Let's talk about what it is. What are we doing? So the acquisition of knowledge and legal skills is a process that's expected to start in law school and continue throughout your career. That's that growth mindset, right? And like learning how to read a case, the professional skills and characteristics that we're talking about can be taught. The professional development skills courses are designed to provide a framework for building these skills and attributes. We're putting the architecture together, putting that scaffolding in place for you to develop these skills. Professional development is about building the skills and attributes that employers have identified, about setting and achieving your professional goals, about creating networks and building your professional identity. Students work to develop core competencies around professionalism, strategic planning, professional independence, project management, communication skills, including professional writing and interaction with diverse audiences, entrepreneurial skills, including networking, relationship building, and understanding the business aspects of practice. So let's talk a little bit more about what you might do each year. So in the 1L course, it's really structured and it's timed to coincide with your typical job search timeline, but tailored to each student's goals. The 1L year is a big adjustment for all students. There's a lot that you're taking in, there's a lot of substance that you're learning. And so this course is put in place and measured in a way that keeps you on track for that job search and keeps you on track to launch your career with your goals in mind. So the students right away work on a self-assessment and a professional development plan, which really allows for that self-directed learning and career development. Students evaluate their interests and strengths and translate those into practice skills in that self-assessment. We work a lot on adapting to the law school academic environment. We also have a Giving Voice to Values program, which our faculty has adopted from business schools to teach ethics. We do education, lots of education around various practice areas and ways to use your JD. This helps you learn about the realities of practice and the practical application of the education you're receiving. Of course, we work on job search skills, right? That's so mission critical, right? How to look for a job, but not just any job, your job, the job that you want that fits your career path and your career goals. In that is resume reviews and mock interviews and mock networking. We offer the Clifton Strengths Assessment and work on exercises around strengths to grow awareness and resilience. We address diversity, equity, and inclusion in the profession. We discuss how to be successful in that first legal summer internship, which is critical for setting off on the right path. And we work on communication skills, understanding how to communicate with different groups of people, being prepared to interact with supervising attorneys, colleagues, and clients, and developing emotional intelligence and cultural competencies. In the 2L and 3L year, it really becomes more self-directed. You have more control over the path. You take that opportunity to look back on your professional goals and chart your path through the course with those goals in mind. So you'll continue to refine your goals and think about them and develop them as you they iterate as you go through different experiences. You'll update your professional development plan as you've adjusted your goals. We focus again on ethics education. We have required professional networking events and mandatory professional informational interviews to get you out there exploring the profession. We work on skills and knowledge necessary for success in your 2L summer and post-grad, like applied legal research and professional client letter writing exercises. And we work on skills and knowledge that really distinguish our students. For example, we do presentations around legal technology and legal operations and even design thinking in practice. So why is this all important? Well, the course is important because employers want all those skills we identified earlier, the skills and professional competencies that were not being taught in law schools. And we want our graduates to be different. We want you to be ready for your careers and your chosen path. We want you to have achieved your goals and set on that course that you've charted. So we're really excited about our professional development program. And I hope that gives you a little picture into what we're doing in 3 years with you as students. So we can talk a little bit about what happens after that. So this slide is just a sampling of where our grads are employed. And it really is all across the practice area and the practice setting spectrum. You can find our grads anywhere doing anything, frankly. And all of this goes down to statistics. And I always like to leave you with a little word about employment statistics. When you have questions about employment outcomes, I encourage you to take a look at each law school's website. Schools are required to post a particular chart of their outcomes for the last 3 years of graduates, and they're required to post this chart by mid-April. It really is the best source of data, and I like data. I think it might make Becky, Kristin, and Sharon giggle a little, but data is my thing. And so I always like to go back to that raw data so that you can look at your goals and think about your goals and go back to those charts so that you can make informed decisions and comparisons. So with that, I'll conclude, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have if you want to put them into the Q&A. Okay, I don't see any questions yet, but I know there's questions out there. All right, this is great. Okay, a bunch of questions came in all at once. All right, so what can you do? So what can a student do to prepare this summer before meeting with your office? So what could you do to prepare before 1L year? I always think it's really interesting to just think about different practice areas. So meet people, meet practicing lawyers, do professional informational interviews, talk to alumni. Our alumni are so terrific, and they always respond to students, and they're always happy to talk about their practice areas. So I would encourage you just to learn about the different practice areas that you might be interested in or interested in exploring, or different practice settings, so that when you come to us in your 1L year, you maybe have a sense of what you like, or maybe even you have a sense of what you don't like. You don't have to decide. We don't expect that folks come into their 1L year knowing what they want to do. In fact, I shared at the beginning that I represented banks in finance transactions. When I came to law school, I wanted to be an environmental lawyer. They're very, very different paths, and I changed my mind throughout law school. So you don't have to know what you want to do, but it's always interesting to just get a sense of what the options are out there. Okay. The next one, faculty advisors. You are paired with a faculty advisor, and you're also paired with a career advisor. So you would be paired with either me, Kristin, Becky, or Sharon. Your faculty advisor and your career advisor are your go-to people, but they're not the only people you can talk to. So you're not required to only meet with your faculty advisor or only meet with your career advisor. So the question in particular is, are you paired with a faculty advisor in your particular practice area of interest? Generally, no, it can happen that way, but students will meet with the faculty that are in that particular area. And the faculty always enjoy meeting with other students, and being paired with an advisor is just sort of a formality so that you have someone you can go to. All right. Okay, so I have a bunch of questions about geography. So we have grads all across the country, and we see most of our grads in any typical year. We see a lot of grads going into, and you can see this in our ABA employment charts that are up on the website. Depending on the year, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, DC are big areas. Sort of the DC metro area are very big areas. We also have every year folks go to Florida, Texas, California, Illinois, the Northeast, Boston. They really are all across the country, and we have grads everywhere. So we support our students by having a really national approach to our employer outreach. So we really do try to draw a national employer pool, but also we have relationships through NALP, our sort of industry organization, with other schools that we share. We share opportunities with students from other geographies. We also have lots of national job posting boards. So we have lots of resources for students that are looking outside of our geography. One of the most powerful tools really is networking with that national alumni base. Kristin, Sharon, or Becky, did I miss anything on that one?
I don't think so.
All right. Let's see what else I have here.
I mean, the only thing I would add is that we work with people at different comfort levels. So some people are just really good naturally and experience at, reaching out to alumni, and other people don't. And we're not a one size fits all office. So depending on your comfort level, one of the things we work with students on is like, what's your starting point and where do you want to be and how do we help you with what you specifically need to get there?
That's terrific.
Reaching out to people or whatever it is that students need.
That's terrific. Thank you. And there was a question also about employment stats. So I'm trying to remember the date. All schools are required to report their employment statistics on their websites by April 11th is the date that those all will be up there. And some schools may report them sooner, but that is the date that they are required to post this year. Let's see. Okay, so there's a question about alumni networking. So yes, our alumni network is incredibly strong. We have an alumni database that is maintained by the law school, and the alumni group has several regional chapters as well. And a lot of that information can be found on the alumni's, on Villanova's webpage for our alumni group. And we have an alumni mentoring program as well. So the alumni office runs a mentoring program where students are matched with alumni based on practice area interest or geographic interest. So it's just another opportunity that you can connect very specifically with alumni, in addition to, we will facilitate introductions, or you can tap into that alumni database as well. Okay. So networking skills and events that can be gained. So we host a number of events where you can network with attorneys, both virtually and in person. And in fact, in a few days, we'll be hosting our spring employer fair, which is an in-person event in our commons where we have many employers send representatives and students can wander around and meet folks in a very casual setting. We also have more discrete practice setting type events where you get to meet practitioners in different practice settings. We have an informational interview requirement, as I mentioned, so you'll certainly be meeting alumni that way. And we have our mock interviews as another example. For networking skills, we have a mock networking program that is really terrific. And we invite some of our really talented networkers, alumni, who also are very kind and very helpful in helping students get the ropes of networking. And we practice things like how to introduce yourself to a group or how to extract yourself from a group. We work on emails that you might send to request an informational interview. So there's lots of different skills we work on, both formally and informally. And we meet one-on-one with students about any of their concerns. So if a student wants to practice a networking skill or wants help around networking, those are things that we will meet with one-on-one, as Sharon mentioned. Does anyone have anything to add to that? Okay. So there's a question about if you're interested in public interest, do you have enough time to explore different externships and clinics? And that's something that, yes, there's definitely opportunity to explore different clinics and different externships. It's something that you would work hand in hand with your faculty advisor and your career advisor in charting that course for yourself as you're thinking about the different avenues you want to pursue or the different areas that you're interested in, thinking about that, those stepping stones and that trajectory, and making sure that you're timing the sequences of your opportunities in ways that make sense for the development of your career. So there's a lot that goes into that answer for any particular person, right? And it's going to be different for every person and their stated goals. So there's a question about what does Villanova do to help public interest-minded students? And I'll toss that one to Sharon because you're probably tired of hearing from me.
Well, again, I mean, we work with people one-on-one, but in the context of public interest, I mean, there are the basic things like job fairs that we participate in, but I work with people specifically to prepare them to maximize those opportunities. We have very approachable public interest faculty. We have a strong community of public interest-minded students, particularly our public interest fellowship program, the PIP students. If any of you is actually in this area, I would encourage you, Saturday night is our public interest auction at 7 p.m. at the law school. And there are going to be a lot of students at the event who are really involved in the school public interest community. There are going to be a number of our alumni who are in public interest practice will be there. It's a great opportunity to come and hear from them what they're doing. But in a nutshell, we have a lot of alumni who are out doing public service who, again, it kind of goes back to helping you reach out to people and connect with people. Jen, I don't know if
Sharon, why don't you talk a little bit about the panels that you've been running the last few weeks that are specifically dedicated to public interest?
So I actually have some panels coming up in the next week. The student group has also done some panels. This week they had a public interest week leading up to the auction with different panels every day with different types of practitioners. I love them because I learn something every single time I go and make new connections. I always encourage people to go to those panels because it's an opportunity to connect with people. Next week, we are doing a program on post-grad public interest fellowships. We're doing another program on post-grad honors programs. In the fall, as part of our professional development course, one of the things we do is a whole series of practice area panels to start to introduce students to different practices and understand litigation doesn't just mean one thing. Transactional work doesn't just mean one thing. In the course of that programming, we have 2 public interest panels, 2 criminal law panels where there's some overlap. We have 2 government panels. Again, there can be overlap. We have a lot of different opportunities to hear from people, to introduce you to people, and just to work with you one-on-one because everybody's different in terms of what they're thinking about or what they want to consider or who they want to meet or what's going to help.
Thanks, Sharon. There's also a question here about mock interviews. So we have a formal mock interview program where every 1L goes through a mock interview with an assigned interviewer. And then there's lots of other mock interviews that we'll run throughout our office. This question is specific about, there's different types of interviews and how might we prepare a student for that. A great example is fellowship interviews, where you may be interviewing for a public interest fellowship from a certain funding source that we know that they have a particular way of interviewing. So we will gather alumni and faculty and folks in the career office to put you through your paces of that type of interview, because we know what to expect and we want you to know what to expect as well. Another example might be district attorney's offices. Often when they're interviewing, will give you a hypothetical criminal law question and ask you to answer it. We again will put you through your paces on those types of interviews in preparation for it, so that we want the hardest part of that interview to be, the hardest experience of an interview like that to be with us, so that when you go into that interview, you feel like you've been through the ringer, you know exactly what to expect, and you feel really great coming out of it. Okay. There's a question about skills gaps in first generation lawyers. So the skills gap in first generation lawyers, it's really interesting question. And I think it really can depend on the student. We focus very, very much with our first generation lawyers on demystifying some of the process. I was first generation college and law school, and there were things I just did not understand. And that's not something we want our first generation students to experience. So there's acronyms and there's funny things about the process. And there are things that feel like, you have to be in the know to know. And we want to just demystify all of that for our students to really level the playing field. And Sharon and Becky work very closely with our first generation students lawyers group to provide some of that programming. And in fact, Becky recently with our national organization did a lot of research on best practices in working with first generation law students. So we are really committed to making sure that it is an even playing field for all students. Okay, let's see. So there's a question about, it says, I'm sure you can't pick a favorite student, but can you talk about a recent success story of a student that made you proud of being in the field? I am proud every day of our students. And I mean, every single one of us is smiling, thinking about something even that just happened in the last 24 hours. Our students are amazing. And I love when our students set a goal and are tenacious and just give us the privilege of helping them achieve that goal, because it is a privilege for us to do this work. We are lucky that we get to see our students shine and see their success, because we bask in their reflected glory. It really is. I'm getting choked up because I can think of so many students every single day that I'm so, so proud of, because they had a goal and they went for it and they achieved that goal. And sometimes the path is bumpy. Sometimes it's not exactly how you want it to go, but we are here to pick you up and dust you off and set you back on that path and help you take that next big step. All right. I feel like that is like a terrific question to end on.
Jen, that was really well said. And I often say to students, especially students that have some kind of setback while they're here and then go on to succeed, I say to them, it's so amazing how quickly you're out in the real world. And we then say to you, can you help another student, right? It just, you pay it forward. Our students are so wonderful. They go out into the world and they do just that. So that happens every day.
So there's a question here about a recent gift. Does the Charles Widger gift add anything to your office? Yes, very much so. In fact, we are so excited to be able to add some human and capital resources to our work on the professional development program and on public interest, public service careers, and pro bono initiatives. So we are so thrilled with Chuck's generosity and the fact that he is continuing to support our law school, but specifically the really terrific work that we've been doing for years that we're able to just take to the next level. So we'll be adding some staff to the office to build out additional programming in our professional development curriculum. We're overflowing with ideas, and I'm excited that you all might get the chance to see some of that next year. And we're also really thrilled to add someone to work on public service and pro bono initiatives to, again, expand opportunities for students and coordinate a lot of the really terrific stuff that we're already doing. So bringing it all under one roof and then expanding it more. It says, Dean Sala asked a question to Dean Alexander in the first panel about if he could add another hour to his day, what would he want to do with it? Same for you all. What would you hope you could do in your work that time just doesn't allow? You know, I am always really excited, and I do try to find time for this, to just think about something. So I go back to that list of skills, and I try to think about something that is so critical for practice that law students just don't get in a traditional law school curriculum. So an example is a few years ago, I was able to bring in someone to do work on Excel with law students. I know it sounds super boring, and lots of you have a business background and know everything about Excel, but lots of you went to our English majors and poli-sci majors and have never touched Excel ever. And it's such an important skill that you need in law in certain practice areas. So that's what I would do. I would find all these little nuanced skills and bring people in to prep you all for those. And I'm excited that Mr. Widger's next or recent gift is going to allow us to do some more of that. Kristin, what would you do if with an hour?
I don't know. You made me think when you said that. I think about back when I took this job, I loved it because I thought, well, there was so much I didn't know coming to your point. I wasn't first gen, but I was clueless for sure coming into law school, and particularly with regard to the career office. So I think with an extra hour, to Jen's point, I would try and figure out sort of where the gaps are. You know, we think we know where the gaps are and we try and address them, but there are new gaps that present themselves with each incoming class that we need to learn about and figure out. And I think that time I would spend trying to figure out what those gaps were earlier so we could address them as quick as possible. So students had as much information as they could possibly have coming to the career office, but also in law school. You know, it can be a big riddle when you come here and you start at any law school. So I think Jen hit the nail on the head. I think that's what I would do. I would try and figure out where those new gaps are that we could fill in to supplement and prepare students the best we can as they look for their careers and also when they get out there in the world and start practice.
Sharon, what would you do?
This is why we all, I think, complement each other, because we really are all different. My favorite thing, and the thing I never get tired of, is just talking with students. And if I had another hour in the day, I would be talking with students more to get a sense from students, not just about like, where do you see yourself going, but what do you think is standing in your way and how can I help? And what else is going on in your life? I mean, we have all, you know, we're in this interesting time where we're hopefully coming out of a pandemic and, you know, in person and seeing people. And the best part of it for me is just seeing students and be able to talk with them. So if I had another hour in the day, some people might say, well, you could have been more productive, but that to me is how I'm productive.
Becky, what would you do?
Mine's similar to Sharon. I do a lot of big classroom presentations with the PD course, and I do a lot of course one-on-one counseling with individual students. I'd love to have something in the middle where maybe some small group meetings. I love to get involved when the students have their affinity group meetings and their other presentations, and sometimes not enough hours of the day to get to everything. But I would say somewhere in the middle where we have some small group opportunities to share and get to know each other.
That's great. Becky, I'm going to tee you up for this next one too. So this question, the attendee says that they have a friend in law school who talks about the anxiety of finding a job or scrolling through LinkedIn and seeing that lots of people have jobs and they don't yet. What advice do you have to incoming students about maintaining mental health and one's cool when interviews and job hunt rolls around? So I will say, each of us daily talks with a student who just wants to come in to vent or feel or get themselves in the right headspace or to feel better about where they are in their job search. I think, LinkedIn can be a really terrible place where, folks, so students often come in and say, everyone has a job and I don't. And that is just a factor of looking at the announcements on LinkedIn, and it becomes magnified, right? It becomes outsized. When students, they find their jobs all along the timeline of, there is a job search timeline, and we talked to you about this in professional development, and people find their jobs all on the timeline. That's why there is a timeline. But there is this, social media can cause this other thing to happen where it feels outsized. So we talk with students a lot about managing that and managing expectations, being able to stay within their own headspace. We also, like I said, share the facts about the timeline and the sources of jobs and where people get their jobs and when they get them, to help people see that, there's facts around this too. And I think that helps to have knowledge and not feel like you're in this weird space. But Becky, do you want to talk a little bit about the mental health and wellness work that we do in professional development?
Absolutely. And I just want to reiterate what Jen was saying. There's a lot of static, right? And we say, just try to steer clear of the grapevine. A lot of times when you're hearing people make stressful observations, it's their own stress that they're trying to project. So just keep it all in check and come to talk to us, because we're always happy to have those conversations. But part of the PD program is a wellness component. We have someone in the building who focuses on wellness. We get together and we have wonderful speakers come in and talk to our students, and they talk about things they've been through personally. They talk about resources that are available to students. And then once you graduate, those resources are still available. So we make sure that everyone knows that we have people to talk to, resources available, and it's part of your PD course. So, always looking for the latest and greatest information and happy to share it.
Yeah, and this year we had someone come in and talk about stress management and how you operate in a stressful environment and how you manage that. It's such an important part of your mental health and well-being. And if you are not in your best physical health or mental health going into a stressful environment or going into a job search, it's going to be even more difficult. And so we want to make sure that you all are, really feeling your very best and really prepared so that you feel confident going into the process and you have the knowledge that you need to navigate that process. This question starts out with LinkedIn can be terrible, as can Reddit. Yes, Reddit is also not a good place. So it's, the question says that you should go, the subreddit, I guess, says you should go to a law school that has the highest big law and federal clerkship percentage, right? And I would say, and the question was like, how should I figure out where to go, right? And I think that's a complicated question. And I think that it's complicated because it really depends on each individual person. if you don't want to go into big law, like think about, I go back to the stats, right? So think about your goals, think about what you want to do. If you don't want to go into big law, that should be a factor, or you should be thinking about, is the school I'm looking at going to support me in my career path, in what I want to do? So yes, they have a ton of people that go to big law or a ton of people that go to federal clerkships, great, but are they going to support me as an individual in my path to big law, in my path to small law, in my path to government or public interest or a judicial clerkship, federal or state, right? You really want to go to a place that I think is built to have you think about your own career goals, think about your own professional strategy, your professional development strategy, and launch you on that path and put that sort of architecture or structure around you to reach your goals. So it's a complicated question because it is so individualized for every person. But I believe that we support every student, no matter their stated goals, right? We have resources for every student, for every person that wants to have a career when they leave law school. Is it a career practicing law? Maybe not. Is it a career in sports? Maybe. Is it a career in a law firm? Maybe. Is it a career in government or public interest? Absolutely. We're built for that. And that's what our professional development program supports.